April 17th, 1945, 2:33 p.m., Berlin. Marko Adler stands in the basement of a shattered apartment building staring at 12 British bombs that failed to detonate during last night's raid. They're arranged in a perfect grid across the floor, deliberate, methodical, waiting. Each one contains 250 kilograms of high explosive. Together, they hold enough force to level 3 city blocks, and they're all wired together in a configuration Marko has never seen before. The building above him is still occupied. 47 civilians refused evacuation, too exhausted from years of bombing to flee anymore. They're sitting in apartments 3 floors up, drinking ersatz coffee, pretending this is just another day. They don't know that beneath their feet, a Royal Air Force bomb disposal specialist designed a puzzle specifically to kill whoever tries to solve it. Marko has 4 minutes, maybe 5 if he's lucky. The bombs have anti-handling devices that activate based on vibration, movement, and time elapsed since impact. He doesn't know which triggers are live. He doesn't know which bomb is the master that will detonate the others. He doesn't have time to evacuate the building. The mechanisms could trigger during the evacuation itself, killing everyone on the stairs. But here's the detail that will make you question everything you know about bomb disposal. Marko isn't going to touch the bombs. He isn't going to examine them individually or trace the wires connecting them. He's going to do something that seems impossible. Defuse all 12 simultaneously, using a technique that exists only because he spent his childhood watching his mother apply makeup in a hand mirror. That mirror trick, learned at age 7 in a cramped Hamburg apartment, is about to save 47 lives and revolutionize bomb disposal doctrine for the next 30 decades. Marko Adler was born in 1905 in Hamburg, son of a merchant sailor and a seamstress. He grew up in tenements near the docks where ships from every nation unloaded cargo that fed Germany's industrial expansion. By 1918, those same docks were empty. Germany was defeated, and 13-year-old Marko was scavenging coal from railway yards to keep his family from freezing. The Weimar years taught him mechanical skills. He apprenticed as a machinist, learning precision work in factories producing everything from typewriters to engine parts. He had steady hands, good spatial reasoning, and the kind of meticulous patience that made him valuable in jobs requiring exactness. When the Nazis came to power in 1933, Marko kept his head down and his hands busy. He was a machinist who happened to live in Germany during insane times. September 1939, war began. Marko was 39, too old for frontline infantry, but perfect for technical services. The Wehrmacht assigned him to ordnance disposal, handling unexploded German munitions that failed to detonate during training or transport. It was unglamorous work, dangerous but necessary. For 2 years, he defused German bombs that malfunctioned, learning the logic of German fusing systems, the mechanical principles that made explosives reliable or occasionally inert. Then the British started bombing Berlin. By 1943, the RAF was dropping thousands of tons of ordnance on German cities every month. Not all of it exploded. British bombs were sophisticated, delayed action fuses, anti-handling devices, booby traps designed to kill German disposal teams. The Luftwaffe's ordnance disposal units faced weapons engineered specifically to murder them. Marko's unit lost 6 men in 1943 alone. Each death followed the same pattern. Experienced technician approaches unexploded British bomb, begins standard German disposal procedure, triggers anti-handling device, dies instantly, along with anyone nearby. The British were learning German techniques and designing countermeasures. The disposal doctrine that worked in 1940 was killing people by 1944. April 1945, Berlin was dying. The Red Army was fighting street to street in the eastern suburbs. The Western Allies bombed by day and night. The city was rubble and fire and desperate people living in basements. Marko's unit was down to 4 men trying to make safe a city that received new unexploded ordnance faster than they could clear it. The question you must be asking is, how does a mirror help you defuse bombs? The answer involves something the British bomb designers didn't anticipate, that sometimes the best way to see danger isn't to look at it directly, but to see it reflected. And that observation, combined with 4 minutes of absolute precision and 47 lives hanging in balance, would create one of the most innovative bomb disposal techniques in military history. Marko doesn't know he's about to revolutionize his field. He just knows that in 4 minutes, either he'll walk out of this basement or he'll become a crater. April 17th, 1945, 2:33 p.m. Marko Adler descends the basement stairs of apartment building 47, Prinzenallee, Berlin, Kreuzberg. The building superintendent, Herr Fischer, follows 2 steps behind, speaking in a rapid, nervous stream. "They're making noises, clicking sounds, ticking, maybe. I don't know. The tenants want to know if they should evacuate." Marko reaches the basement floor and stops. His flashlight beam sweeps across the space, and he understands immediately why Fischer is terrified. 12 British SC-250, 250-kilogram general-purpose bombs are arranged in a precise grid pattern across the concrete floor. 3 rows of 4, each bomb spaced exactly 2 meters from its neighbors. All 12 are connected with visible wiring running between them like a spider's web. This isn't accidental. This is deliberate. "Get out," Marko tells Fischer. "Go upstairs. Tell everyone to stay in their apartments. No one moves until I say." "Should they evacuate?" "Moving might trigger the bombs. Tell them to sit still and be quiet." Fischer's face goes pale. "How many people?" "How many are in the building?" 47. We couldn't get them all to leave during last night's raid. They're too tired, too—" "Go, now." Fischer runs. He can hear his footsteps hammering up the stairs, then voices above, muffled questions, Fischer's elevated explanations. Then the sounds fade to the ambient noise of a building at rest. Water dripping somewhere, wind through shattered windows, the creak of damaged structural supports settling. Marko approaches the nearest bomb carefully, keeping his footsteps light to minimize vibration. The SC-250 is a cylinder roughly 1 meter long, painted olive drab, with a nose fuse visible at one end. He's diffused dozens of these. The standard German procedure is methodical. Examine the fuse, identify the type, use appropriate tools to render it safe, remove the detonator, move to next bomb. But this configuration is nothing like standard procedure. He traces the wiring with his flashlight. All 12 bombs are connected in serial. Electrical current runs from one to the next in sequence. Disturbing any single bomb could trigger the entire array, and he can see anti-handling devices on at least 3 of the bombs, small cylindrical mechanisms attached to the casing that will detonate the bomb if it's tilted, moved, or subjected to vibration. The British have learned from German disposal techniques and designed countermeasures. This array is a death trap for conventional disposal methods. Marko checks his watch, 2:34 p.m. Last night's raid was approximately 16 hours ago. British delayed action fuses typically have settings ranging from immediate to 72 hours, but these bombs have been on the ground for 16 hours making strange noises. The clicking Fischer heard suggests mechanical timers winding down. These could detonate in minutes or hours, but Marko doesn't have hours. He does a rapid tactical assessment. Evacuating 47 people from a damaged building while 12 bombs with anti-handling devices sit in the basement is extremely dangerous. The vibration from that many people moving downstairs could trigger the devices, but leaving them in place while he works means their deaths are certain if he fails. The mathematics are brutal. 12 bombs with complex wiring, multiple anti-handling devices, unknown time remaining, and 47 civilians overhead. Touching any bomb risks triggering them all. Standard disposal procedure, approach each bomb individually, examine, and defuse, would take hours he doesn't have, and would almost certainly trigger the anti-handling devices. He needs a different approach.
Marko steps back from the bomb array, positioning himself near the stairs where vibration from his movements won't reach the sensitive devices. He pulls a small hand mirror from his disposal kit, an item most disposal men carry for examining hard-to-see fuse mechanisms. The mirror is perhaps 10 centimeters across, rectangular, with a wooden frame worn smooth from years of use. An idea forms. It's unconventional, possibly insane, but it's the only option that doesn't involve either abandoning 47 people or approaching bombs designed to kill him the moment he touches them. He's going to defuse all 12 bombs simultaneously, and he's going to do it using mirrors. The technique doesn't exist in any manual. He'll have to invent it in the next 4 minutes. But Marko Adler has been preparing for this moment his entire life, even though he didn't know it. Every childhood hour watching his mother use a hand mirror to see the back of her head. Every machinist's training in precision work and spatial reasoning. Every bomb he's successfully defused. It all leads here, to this basement, to this impossible configuration, to 12 bombs and 4 minutes and a mirror trick that might save an entire city block. 2:35 p.m. 3 minutes remaining, maybe less. Marko begins. If you're wondering how a mirror can defuse bombs, stay with me. The next chapter reveals a technique that changed bomb disposal forever. Quick pause. If you're hooked on this story, hit that like button and subscribe. The most intense 4 minutes of Marko's life are still ahead.
Hamburg, 1912. 7-year-old Marko sits on his mother's bed, watching her prepare for an evening out. She stands at the wash basin with a small hand mirror, angling it to see the back of her hair while looking in the larger wall mirror. Her hands move precisely, pinning strands into place using only the reflected image as a guide. "Why do you need 2 mirrors, Mama?" asks young Marko. "Because I can't see the back of my own head," explains she. "But if I hold this small mirror behind me and look at the wall mirror, I can see the reflection of the reflection. It shows me what I couldn't see before." Marko finds this fascinating. The doubled reflection creates visibility without direct sight. It lets you see dangerous things without being close enough for those things to hurt you. The principle is pure physics. Light travels from object to mirror to eye. The mirror doesn't eliminate distance. You're still meters away from the object, but it eliminates the need to position your body near the object to see it. For bomb disposal, this distinction is life-saving. Marko inventories his tools. He has the small hand mirror from his kit, 10 centimeters, wooden frame, slightly scratched but functional. He has his flashlight. He has a wire cutter, a wooden probe, and various small tools for manipulating fuses. And he has approximately 3 minutes before the bombs might detonate. The basement layout offers advantages. The bombs are arranged in an open grid on flat floor. The ceiling is low, perhaps 2.5 meters, with exposed pipes and beams. There's adequate light from his flashlight and dim daylight filtering through small street-level windows. Most importantly, there's a support column near the stairs positioned so that Marko can observe the entire bomb array while staying behind cover. He positions himself behind the column, 4 meters from the nearest bomb, beyond the likely trigger radius of the anti-handling devices. He takes his second mirror, actually a polished metal plate from his toolkit, not a true mirror, but reflective enough, and props it against the column base angled toward the bombs. Now he can see the entire array without direct line of sight. The reflection shows all 12 bombs, the wiring between them, the relative positions. The image is reversed left to right, which requires mental compensation, but years of machinist work have trained his spatial reasoning. The British bomb designers anticipated direct approaches. They positioned anti-handling devices assuming a disposal technician would crouch beside each bomb, examining it closely. They wired the array to punish anyone touching or moving individual bombs. But they didn't anticipate remote observation through reflection. Marko uses his flashlight to illuminate specific bombs, watching in the mirror how light reflects from wire insulation, fuse housings, and anti-handling mechanisms.
Different materials reflect differently. Bare copper wire creates a bright reflection. Insulated wire shows duller reflection. The anti-handling device housings, made of brass, reflect with a distinctive yellow tint. He traces the wiring circuit through reflection. The configuration is serial, as he initially observed, but now he can see the details. The circuit begins at bomb number 1, front left of the grid, and runs through all 12 bombs in sequence and terminates at bomb number 12, back right of the grid. This means bomb 12 is the master, the one that controls the circuit. But there's a complication. 3 bombs in the middle of the array have tilt-switch anti-handling devices visible on their casings. These will detonate if the bombs are moved or if vibration exceeds a certain threshold. Approaching bomb 12 requires passing within 2 meters of these tilt-switch bombs. Direct approach is impossible. But reflected observation allows Marko to see what he needs: the exact wire configuration on bomb 12, the fuse type, the connection points where cutting specific wires will neutralize the entire array. He extends his primary mirror on an improvised pole, a broken broomstick he finds in the basement corner. By holding this extended mirror at specific angles, he can bring his eye-level view to within centimeters of bomb components without his body approaching at all. The reflection shows him what he needs. The doubled distance, bomb to mirror to eye, creates safe separation while maintaining visual access. It's the same principle his mother used to style her hair, scaled up to defuse weapons designed to kill him. 2:36 p.m. 2 minutes remaining. Marko begins the detailed analysis that will determine whether he and 47 people live or die.
Marko's mirror system is functioning. He can see all 12 bombs simultaneously through the reflected view, his position behind the support column keeping him outside the trigger radius of the anti-handling devices. But seeing the bombs isn't enough. He needs to understand the circuit, identify the master control, and determine which wires must be cut to neutralize the array. The challenge is that everything in the mirror is reversed. Left is right, right is left. His brain must constantly translate reversed images into accurate spatial understanding. One mistake, cutting the wrong wire because he misread at reversed reflection, will detonate 12 bombs and collapse the building. He focuses the mirror on pole toward bomb 12, the suspected master at the back right of the grid. The reflection shows a standard British SC-250 nose fuse, but with modifications. 2 additional wires run from the fuse housing to a small box attached to the bomb casing, likely a relay that controls the serial circuit powering all 12 bombs. This relay is the key. Cut its input wires and the circuit neutralizes. But Marko can see through the reflection that the relay box has 4 wires attached, not 2. 2 are inputs from the main circuit. The other 2 are dummies, decoy wires designed to detonate when cut. British bomb designers use this tactic frequently. They know German disposal doctrine includes wire cutting, so they add false wires that trigger detonation when severed. The challenge is identifying which wires are real circuit components and which are explosive traps. Marko angles his mirror to catch light on each wire. Real insulated copper wire has a slight texture from the braided conductors inside. Dummy wires are typically solid steel with rubber coating, smoother surface, different reflection pattern. 2 wires show the textured reflection of braided copper. These are the live circuit wires. The other 2 show smooth reflection. These are the dummy wires, spring-loaded traps that will trigger explosion if cut. But there's another problem. 3 bombs in the middle of the array have tilt-switch anti-handling devices. Marko can see them clearly in the reflection, small cylindrical mechanisms with a glass tube visible inside. Mercury tilt switches. If the bomb tilts more than a few degrees, liquid mercury in the tube flows to complete an electrical circuit, detonating the bomb instantly. These mercury switches are extremely sensitive. A person walking heavily nearby could create enough vibration to trigger them.
Certainly someone approaching close enough to cut wires on Bomb 12 would trigger them. The solution requires thinking through the physics. The mercury switches respond to changes in tilt or significant vibration, but gradual, minimal vibration, the kind created by a tool extended on a pole rather than a person walking, might be below their trigger threshold. Marko tests this theory by extending his mirror pole and tapping it lightly on the floor near the bomb array. He watches the reflection carefully. The bombs shift slightly from the vibration, but not enough to trigger the mercury switches. The devices require more significant disturbance. This means he can approach the work zone with extended tools, but he cannot approach with his body. Every action must be performed from 4 meters away using extended implements. He studies the relay box wiring through reflection. The 2 live wires enter the box from different directions. One comes from the serial circuit connecting all 12 bombs. The other comes from the bomb's own fuse. Both must be cut to neutralize the bomb and disable the circuit, but they must be cut in the correct sequence. Cut the fuse wire first, and the relay loses power, disabling anti-handling devices on all 12 bombs. Cut the circuit wire second, and the serial connection breaks, isolating all bombs from each other. Cut them in the wrong order, circuit first, fuse second, and the relay will interpret the disruption as tampering and trigger immediate detonation. Marko identifies the correct sequence through reflection. The circuit wire is red in insulation. The fuse wire is black. He memorizes their positions, accounting for the mirror reversal. In direct view, the red wire would be on the left. In the mirror, it appears on the right. He must cut what appears as the right wire, which is actually the left wire in reality. 2:37 p.m., 1 minute remaining, possibly less. He knows what to cut and in what sequence. Now comes the impossible part. Cutting wires from 4 meters away using improvised tools while watching the work in a reversed mirror image, with 47 lives depending on absolute precision. Marko picks up his wire cutters and begins jury-rigging them onto the extended pole. There is no time for hesitation. There is only execution.
2:38 p.m. Marko works to attach wire cutters to the broom handle pole, his hands moving with practiced precision, despite the knowledge that he has perhaps 60 seconds remaining. From above, through the basement ceiling, comes the sound of life continuing in ignorance of death waiting below. A child laughs. The sound is high and clear, probably a girl, maybe 6 or 7. She's giggling at something, a game, a joke, the simple happiness of childhood somehow persisting in a city being destroyed. A piano plays, badly, someone picking out notes, learning or relearning a melody. The piano is out of tune, damage from bombing concussions having warped its internal structure, but someone is playing it anyway, creating beauty from a broken instrument because that's what humans do. They persist. Marko hears arguing, a young couple, their voices rising and falling through the floorboards. They're fighting about bread rations, about someone who failed to cue properly, about the trivial injustices that consume attention when larger horrors have become normalized. Their argument is so ordinary, so painfully mundane, that Marko's throat tightens. These aren't statistics, they're people. A child who laughs, a musician who plays broken pianos, a couple who argues about bread, an elderly person coughing somewhere above. Marko can hear it, the deep, wet sound of lungs damaged by smoke inhalation or disease. That person survived years of war only to potentially die in the next 60 seconds because Marko makes a technical error. He could run. The thought arrives unbidden but clear. He could drop his tools, sprint up the stairs, exit the building, and put 100 meters between himself and these bombs before they detonate. He would live. He's fast enough, experienced enough to know the exact moment to abandon an impossible situation. A memory surfaces. Munich, 1943. A disposal technician named Werner faced a similar situation. A bomb with anti-handling device, civilians in the building, unknown time remaining. Werner made the calculation and ran. He saved himself.
The building collapsed 18 minutes later, killing 11 people, including 2 children. Marko saw Werner 3 weeks after that incident. The man was drunk in a Munich beer hall at noon, eyes empty, hands shaking. He lasted another week before hanging himself from a pipe in his apartment. The note he left said only, "I heard them screaming." Running is survival, but survival isn't the same as living. Werner survived the bomb, but couldn't survive knowing he'd chosen his life over 11 others. The choice killed him more slowly than explosives would have, but just as certainly. Marko resumes securing the wire cutters to the pole. His hands don't shake. He's surprised by this. He expected fear to manifest physically, but his machinist's training, thousands of hours of precision work, has automated his movements. His hands know what to do even while his mind processes the weight of 47 lives. He thinks about his wife, Anna, killed in a 1944 bombing raid while he was defusing another unexploded bomb across the city. The timing is cruel in retrospect. He saved strangers while his wife died. But that's the nature of technical service. You work where you're assigned, save who you can save, and live with the randomness of who dies. They never had children. Anna wanted them, but the war kept intervening. After the war, they'd said, the phrase that every German couple used to postpone life until safety returned. The war took Anna before after could arrive. Marko has no one left to mourn him if these bombs detonate. This realization is strangely liberating. He can take risks that men with families cannot. But the 47 people above have families. They are someone's family. The laughing child has parents. The piano player has someone who listens. The arguing couple has each other. The elderly person coughing has a lifetime of memories and perhaps grandchildren waiting elsewhere. Marko finishes securing the wire cutters. The contraption is crude, cutters lashed to broomstick with wire, a lever system that allows him to squeeze the cutting jaws closed while standing 4 meters away. It's an improvised, imprecise, dangerous option, but it's his only option. 2:38 p.m. 30 seconds remaining, maybe less. The bombs could detonate at any moment. Above him, life continues. The child laughs again. The piano plays another wrong note. The arguing couple resolves or intensifies. The elderly person coughs again. Marko Adler extends his pole-mounted wire cutters toward bomb 12, watching the reversed image in his mirror, and begins the most precise work of his life. 47 people he's never met depend on him not making a single error. He doesn't intend to disappoint them.
The wire cutter extends toward bomb 12 like a blind man's cane, Marko guiding it while watching the reversed image in his mirror. Every centimeter of movement requires mental calculation. The mirror shows right when he needs to go left, shows closer when he needs to pull back. His machinist's spatial reasoning translates reversed image into correct physical movement. The cutter jaws approach the relay box. Through the mirror, Marko sees them move into position near the black insulated fuse wire, the first wire he must cut. But near isn't sufficient. The jaws must align exactly around the wire, and he's operating from 4 meters away using a jury-rigged tool while watching everything backwards. He angles the mirror slightly, improving the view. The reflection now shows the wire centered between the cutter jaws, or appears centered. The reversal makes certainty impossible. He must trust his spatial calculation, trust years of precision work, trust that his brain's translation of reversed image to physical reality is accurate. 2:38 p.m. 20 seconds remaining, maybe. The mechanical clicking sound from the bombs has increased in frequency. The delayed action fuse is winding down toward detonation. Marko has no way of knowing if he has 20 seconds or 2 seconds. All he knows is that hesitation is as deadly as error. He squeezes the lever on his extended tool. 4 meters away, the wire cutter jaws close around the black fuse wire. The resistance he feels through the pole tells him the wire is engaged. He increases pressure, feeling through the improvised tool like a surgeon using instruments to operate on organs he cannot directly see. The wire resists cutting. British wire is thicker than German wire, designed to withstand battle damage.
Marko applies more force, watching the mirror carefully. If the wire breaks instead of cutting cleanly, if it snaps back and disturbs the bomb casing, if vibration exceeds the mercury switch's threshold, 47 people die. The wire parts. The sound is barely audible, a small snick of metal cutting through copper and insulation. Through the mirror, Marko sees the severed wire ends separate. The relay box loses power from the fuse. Several indicator lights on other bombs in the array go dark. Success. Partial success. The fuse power is cut, which should have disabled anti-handling devices, but the serial circuit is still live. All 12 bombs are still connected. He must cut the second wire, the red circuit wire, to break that connection. But the second wire presents a new problem. Through his mirror observation, Marko can see that this wire has tension on it. It's pulled taut between connection points, and there's a spring-loaded mechanism visible near where it enters the relay box. If he simply cuts the wire, the tension will release, the spring will snap, and the sudden motion will trigger the mercury switches he's been trying to avoid. He needs to cut the wire while simultaneously controlling its tension so it doesn't snap when severed. This requires two tools operating in precise coordination. He has only one pole-mounted tool and perhaps 10 seconds remaining. Marko grabs his wooden probe, a 30-centimeter rod used for checking fuse mechanisms. He extends it carefully toward the tensioned wire, using his mirror view to guide it. The probe touches the wire, and Marko applies gentle pressure, creating counter-tension that will prevent snapping when the wire is cut. Now he must operate both tools simultaneously, one hand holding the probe to maintain tension, the other extending the wire cutter to sever the wire, all while watching the reversed mirror image and staying 4 meters away from bombs that could detonate at any instant. His machinist training takes over. Years of working with both hands on precision tasks, years of spatial reasoning, years of operating tools without looking directly at the work. All of it comes together in this moment. He's done this type of coordinated manipulation thousands of times on engine parts and machine components. Now he's doing it on bombs. The wire cutter jaws close around the red circuit wire. Marko maintains probe pressure with his left hand while squeezing the cutter lever with his right. The wire resists, then parts. The probe prevents snapping. The severed wire ends separate slowly, controlled, no sudden motion. Through the mirror, Marko watches every indicator light on all 12 bombs go dark simultaneously. The serial circuit is broken. The bombs are isolated from each other. The anti-handling devices are powered down. The basement is silent except for Marko's breathing. 2:39 p.m. 4 minutes and 6 seconds after he entered the basement. 12 bombs defused using nothing but mirrors, improvised tools, and a technique that doesn't exist in any disposal manual. Above him, a child laughs. The sound is perfect.
Marko climbs the basement stairs slowly, each step requiring conscious effort. His legs shake from adrenaline crash. His hands tremble despite years of steady-handed precision work. He reaches the ground floor and finds Herr Fischer waiting with 47 people crowded in the hallway, the entire building population gathered to learn if they live or die. "Safe," Marko says. The word comes out hoarse, barely audible. He clears his throat and repeats louder, "The bombs are safe. You can stay." The reaction is muted. These are Berliners in April 1945, people who've survived years of bombing and know that safe is temporary. A few nod. One woman says, "Thank you," quietly. The child, whose laugh Marko heard through the ceiling, is hiding behind her mother's skirt, peeking at him with large eyes. Most people simply return to their apartments, resuming the interrupted routine of survival. Marko sits on the stairs and waits for the full disposal team to arrive. They come 3 hours later, 4 men with proper equipment to remove the 12 bombs safely. They listen to Marko's explanation of what he did, examining the diffused relay box, studying the wire configuration. "Mirror technique?" asks the team leader. "That's not in the manual." "I know," Marko says. "It should be."
The team leader makes notes. A week later, Marko's technique is documented and distributed to remaining German disposal units across the shrinking Reich. Adler's reflection protocol, it's called, using mirrors to observe and manipulate explosive devices from safe distance when direct approach would trigger anti-handling mechanisms. The technique saves lives in the final weeks of war. Hamburg, Munich, Dresden, cities receiving their last bombardment before German surrender, disposal teams use reflected observation to safely render unexploded British bombs. The mirror method works because British designers never anticipated it. Their anti-handling devices trigger on proximity, vibration, physical contact, but not on being observed through reflection. May 1945. Germany surrenders. Marko's unit is captured by Soviet forces advancing through Berlin. He spends 3 years in a POW camp in Kazakhstan, doing forced labor in factories, his disposal expertise worthless in captivity. He survives through the same patient endurance that served him during the bombing years. Men around him die of malnutrition, disease, despair. Marko keeps working, keeps his head down, waits for release. 1948, he returns to Hamburg. The city is rubble and reconstruction. His apartment building no longer exists, bombed flat in 1944. Anna is long dead. He has no family, no home, nothing except machinist skills and memories he tries to forget. He finds work in a factory manufacturing agricultural equipment. The precision skills that diffused bombs now produce tractor parts. No one asks about the war. Germany is collectively trying to forget, trying to rebuild without examining what was lost or how it became lost. Marko doesn't talk about disposal work, doesn't mention the 12 bombs, or the mirror technique, or the 47 people whose lives he saved in 1945 because of reversed images and improvised tools. But the technique spreads beyond Germany. Allied forces examining captured German disposal manuals discover Adler's protocol. British and American bomb disposal schools begin teaching mirror-based observation for situations where direct approach is dangerous. The technique proves valuable beyond wartime. Any explosive device with anti-handling features can be observed through reflection without triggering defensive mechanisms. In the 1950s and 1960s, as technology advances, the mirror technique evolves. Fiber optic cameras become available, essentially sophisticated mirrors that transmit images through flexible cables. Remote manipulation tools improve, allowing technicians to work on explosives from safe distances while watching on screens. Every advance traces back to Marko's improvisation in a Berlin basement. By the 1970s, Adler protocol is standard doctrine in bomb disposal units worldwide. New recruits learn the principle: when direct observation is impossible or dangerous, use reflection. Modern bomb disposal robots carry cameras and mirrors as standard equipment. The technique Marko invented in 4 desperate minutes becomes foundational to the field. Marko Adler dies in 1979. Age 74, a retired machinist in Hamburg. His obituary in the local newspaper mentions military service in ordnance disposal, but provides no details. Most people who knew him had no idea he revolutionized his field. The 47 people whose lives he saved in 1945 scattered across post-war Germany and beyond. Most never learned the disposal technician's name. But in bomb disposal training facilities in Britain, America, Germany, Israel, and 24 other nations, instructors still teach the mirror technique. They call it Adler protocol, though many don't know who Adler was. The technique exists independent of its creator, a permanent contribution to the dangerous work of making safe the weapons designed to kill. In 1983, a woman named Greta Hoffman publishes an article in a Hamburg newspaper titled "The Man Who Saved Building 47." She was the 6-year-old girl laughing in the apartment above Marko's head in April 1945. Now she's 44, an engineer, and she spent years researching what happened that day. Her article describes the 12-bomb array, the 4-minute defusal, the mirror technique that no one had used before. She interviews surviving residents of Building 47 who remember the disposal man with steady hands. She obtains military records showing Marko's service and the documentation of Adler protocol. The article brings brief attention. A few newspapers reprint it. Military historians note it as an interesting footnote. Then attention fades again, as it always does for technical achievements that lack dramatic narrative. But Greta Hoffman keeps the article framed in her office. Below it, she's written in neat script, 47 people lived because one man knew how to see danger in reflection. I was one of the 47. That's the legacy. Not fame, not recognition, not parades or medals. Just people living who might have died, and a technique that saves lives decades after its inventor is gone. From Marko Adler, machinist and bomb disposal technician, perhaps that would have been enough.
This story is a work of fiction inspired by documented innovations in bomb disposal during World War II. While Marko Adler and the specific April 17, 1945 incident are fictional, the narrative draws upon verified historical practices and technical realities faced by disposal personnel. British and German bomb disposal units confronted escalating technical challenges as both sides developed increasingly sophisticated fusing systems and anti-handling devices designed to kill disposal technicians. The use of mirrors for indirect observation has historical precedent and was standard practice in disposal kits, allowing examination of fuse mechanisms without positioning bodies near potential detonation points. The SC-250 bomb, anti-handling devices, mercury tilt switches, and relay configurations described reflect actual British bomb design practices documented in military technical manuals. Marko Adler represents composite experiences from multiple German ordnance disposal unit technicians who suffered high casualties in this exceptionally dangerous work. Many German technical personnel were detained in Soviet POW camps after 1945, and the reluctance to discuss military service reflects documented patterns among post-war veterans. While Adler protocol is fictional, the principle of indirect observation became fundamental to modern bomb disposal doctrine. This narrative honors disposal personnel across all nations who faced extraordinarily dangerous work with limited recognition, demonstrating how technical innovation emerges from desperate necessity and how improvised solutions become lasting contributions to professional practice.